My name is Kwabena Chenchehinibuati. Many thanks for joining us here on News Desk. To our very first story, and the country's not so established political parties are heading to court to contest the interpretation of the constitution, which states that all parties must have offices in 2/3 of the country. Now, it follows the directive by the Electoral Commission for all the parties to comply with the directive or that very clause by May 31 or risk being banned from participating in the elections. Now, a number of the smaller parties are challenging the EC's directive, describing it as arbitrary and unlawful. Right. Okay, so it appears we do not have that very sound bite for you. We'll try and work it out. Once you're able to have that very sound for you, we're going to play that tape to you. But let's now try and get a reaction from some of these parties, particularly these small parties and relatively new parties, as many choose to call them. But let's go on to the phone lines now. Speak to the flag bearer of the All People's Congress. I'm speaking of Hassan Ayariga, who's joining us now via phone with some thoughts on the issue. Mr. Ayariga, good morning. Many thanks for your time here on News Desk, sir.
Good morning to you. Good morning to our listeners.
Right. So the last time we checked, your party was the only party that had met this very criteria according to the Electoral Commission. Is this true?
Yes, that's very true. When we picked the form to register APC, we were given the guidelines and the requirements needed to be given the final certificate. And one of such requirements was that we must satisfy the Political Party Law 2000 at 574. That requires all political parties to have at least 2/3 of district offices across Ghana. And that means that you must have at least 144 district offices in Ghana. Operational offices, not just offices, but operational offices. So we said, no problem. Since you've not given us the final certificate, we will get all the offices, but when we are given the final certificate, then we will start working in the offices. So they agreed. So we gave them 150 district offices across Ghana. We satisfied the requirement, the full requirement they were asking for, and we went ahead, we were giving our final certificate. Even before we went there, I know about 3 other political parties that have gotten provisional certificates, but they were refused final certificate because they did not satisfy the constitutional requirements of Ghana. So APC has, as of now, we have 220 constituency offices in Ghana, 10 regional offices, 1 national office.
So obviously you should be pretty happy with this very directive by the Electoral Commission. The Electoral Commission's decision to enforce this very clause in the Constitution that makes it mandatory for all political parties contesting the elections to fulfill this requirement. So I'm sure you are okay with this.
Yes, I agree with the Electoral Commission, and I want other political parties to know that the constitutional requirement of the EC must be satisfied. And that of Ghana has worked. If you're a political party and you want to win elections and lead this country, and you don't go by the constitution, the very constitution you're going to use to work, the very constitution that is going to make you president, you don't go by the constitution, how do you then become a president?
But in all honesty, I mean, the Electoral Commission over the years, I mean, this law, this clause in the law has been there all this while. But in all honesty, not many parties have been able to fulfill that very clause in the Constitution. I mean, if really we are to go by what...
That's the reason why we do change. If the former Electoral Commission, Dr. Afarijan, could not crack the whip, we have a new electoral commissioner now. And she saying, she's a lawyer. She knows the implications of law. And she knows the implications of not satisfying our constitutional requirements. So I told her, look, if I have a year ago satisfied the constitutional requirements by giving you all the details, satisfying the details, then all other political parties, the NPC, the MPP, must also satisfy satisfy the requirements. No, it will surprise you to know that the NCC and the NPC do not have 144 offices across Ghana. I'm telling you. Till they themselves have not satisfied that constitutional requirement.
So all along we've been perpetrating an illegality. All along.
No, they have not, because they, as far as over the years, they didn't care. They were so much worried about that. That is why we have 25 political parties in Ghana, and today they are debating on whether they should satisfy the constitutional requirement of each or not. Why do you debate on matters that are supposed to be, legal matters? Why do you debate on what is right? You see, let's even forget about the issue of Electoral Commission's demand. As a political party, you need to operate based on facts. So if you form a political party and you don't have offices across Ghana, how do you intend to work?
Hassan Ayaga, some say you go around touting the credentials of the APC and saying that yes, the APC has been able to meet this criteria, but there are concerns that even in most of your offices, those same offices are being used for other things. Some suggest that you have offices that serve as a place for seamstress, as barbering salons and all, and you still consider them as offices?
I am not sure. I'm not sure you are talking to Dr. Hassan Ayaga and APC. I'm sure somebody's party, not APC. As we speak now, if you have the what do you call it, the time, go to the Electoral Commission office. They will issue you with the whole booklet of APC's office across Ghana. Pick the addresses and the locations, because we have addresses, we have locations, we have telephone numbers, we have directions. And then go around yourself and see whether what people are saying is true. You see, let us not, that's what I'm saying. Let's forget about even the constitutional requirement of the issue. But you should know that a political party cannot operate without offices. How do you intend to get your membership? How do you intend to receive letters from the constituency when the EC want to deliver letters to you? How do you intend to run your meetings? How do you intend to run your campaign?
Okay.
Are you going to sit on the tree? Or are you going to do it in your car?
Doc, one final one before you go. One final one. Again, it's good you mention all these things, but really, what is the essence? One would say the MPP and the NDC, even without having these offices, they managed to win elections here in the country, and they've won by quite some large margins. And mind you, these are the two major political parties in the country. So if these offices do not mean much to them and they're able to win elections anyway, why waste time on this? Why not focus on other relevant issues?
If you don't go by the constitution and you win elections, is it legal? If you don't go by the constitution, you win it's not legal. If you want to go by constitution in this country, I don't think even the NDC and the MPP will be qualified to contest with this election. So
as things stand now, we can even say, based on what you're saying.
My brother, let me finish.
Right.
You called me. You want to hear? They should come and tell us. I am challenging them, including their national chair, to come and tell us whether they have the 144 officers we are talking about. Look. Let's be sincere. You want to be the president of this country and you do not follow the constitutional requirement of the country. How do you intend to rule? Do you want us, all of us, to abuse the law? Because you cannot satisfy it. If you cannot satisfy constitutional requirements of only a party, how do you then manage the country?
Okay.
A party is small, has been said a nation, and you can satisfy common constitutional requirements of your political party, and you want to ask to abide by the laws of Ghana when you are president. All
right, Dr. Hassan Ayaga, many thanks for your time. But just before you go, so some of these smaller parties are calling for an extension to this May 31 deadline that the EC has given. Will you agree with them? Would you probably...
They should not extend it.
They should not extend
it. Long ago. Let me tell you. Ayaga party was just formed 3 months ago. And they need to satisfy all these requirements. All these smaller parties we're talking about, they've been in existence for years. What are they talking about? And the EC did not only give the warning last month, the EC told them long ago. They should not blame EC for their laziness.
So you think it's just sheer laziness on the part of these major political parties who've been unable to meet this criteria?
Come again?
You see this as sheer laziness, the fact that these major political parties have been unable to satisfy this criteria in the constitution?
Not just laziness, lack of leadership. That's it. Lack of leadership.
Right.
They should show leadership fast.
Okay.
Let's be sincere. APC got his provisional. We registered the party in January. Got our provisional certificate in February. got our final certificate in March. Now we are doing all the other elections. As we speak, I am in China, ordering the things and items that the APC must use to work. Even in China here, I'm planning to open an office for APC. What are you talking about? Down in Ghana, my boss are in all the constituencies organizing. Ask, call and ask. And they will tell you that APC vehicles are moving all around in the region.
Okay.
And you tell me that you want to build Ghana and you want us to ignore the constitutional requirement of our land, and you think that Ghanaians should take this serious as a political party? Master, give us a break.
Dr. Hassan Ayariga, many thanks for your time on News Desk this morning. And Hassan Ayariga is the flag bearer, founder and flag bearer of the All People's Congress. Well, he seems to believe that if you really do want to lead a country, you should be able to, if for nothing at all, meet the requirements of that very constitution you seek to uphold when you take up that very office. But let's try and get a lot more perspectives on this issue. Let's get some reactions from the ruling government. Joining me now on phone is the national organizer of the National Democratic Congress, Kofi Adams, who also has some thoughts on this issue, and he's going to share that with us okay. Well, I'm told we just lost Kofi Adams on the line there, but we are just trying to get an understanding of this. Well, essentially, it has to do with that directive by the Electoral Commission that suggests that if you really want to contest this year's elections and any other elections for that matter, you do need to satisfy certain requirements in the Constitution that suggests that if for nothing at all, you need to have offices in 2/3 of the districts in the country. So let's now go back to the phone lines and speak to someone in government, obviously, the NDC. So Kofi Adams is national organizer of the ruling NDC and is joining me now on phone with some thoughts on the issue. Mr. Adams, good morning. Many thanks for your time, sir.
Good morning, and good morning to your viewers.
Right. So, Kofi, this is the directive coming from the Electoral Commission. Some smaller parties are suggesting that they be given some time to put together these things and get these offices functioning before the deadline. We just spoke to Hassan Ayariga of the APC, and he seems to suggest that, in fact, yourself, that's the NDC, and the NPP, you've both failed at this. You haven't been able to meet this criteria, yet you're in office. And he attributes this to sheer laziness and lack of leadership.
I think the Electoral Commission has given a directive, so it is their responsibility to implement. If any party doesn't, they should apply the law.
So, and again, if you are to go by that, essentially means your party you've not been able to meet this criteria, yet you're in government. How is that possible?
Actually, we have offices even beyond, below the constituency level. So that one is not a matter that we want to waste our time on. The Constitution says you should have presence in districts, and we have presence even below the constituency level. That way around. So I don't think that I want to spend time on how scientific gets coming. I welcome the Electoral Commission's directive to apply the law. That is how it's supposed to be. So they should just apply the law.
So, some are saying this is just a move to just rid quite a number of parties of the process, to ensure that these parties do not take part in the process. And essentially, it's just going to be a two-horse race?
I think the law has to be applied. You have just heard somebody accuse the NDC and MPP also that they also don't even meet the requirements of the law. So it's the review that will tell. So how would the NDC or MPP that doesn't meet the requirement go and suggest that they should apply the same that will affect them? So it's a law that must be applied. If the law is there, it must be obeyed. That's all. If we don't want that law, all of us as a country must decide that we want it amended, we want it taken off, then they can be taken off. But if we want it, it must be applied.
So you don't believe in the call for extension? Yes, some do agree that, in fact, most of your colleagues in the other political parties do agree that they need to meet this criteria.
But it's like, so there will have to be extending everything in this country. In Ghana here, everything we do, we are asking for extension. Registration, we are given a time to go and do. We wait, last minute, we rush, we don't get, we say extension. Everything that we do in this country, we are always waiting for extension and extension. I'm tired of this extension.
So the Electoral Commission should just go ahead and ban all such parties. So by May 31, if you do not meet the requirements, you are out. You are not contesting this year's elections.
If that is the way they feel that the law allows them to do, we should just apply the law. We are a country called Ghana because we have a constitution. So anybody will do what he wants. Otherwise, I will decide to go and park my car in the middle of the road because no law work or there will be no constitution. Otherwise, anybody can call and say he's forming a parliament. He's also going for a loan on behalf of them. But these things are not being done because we have a law, we have a constitution. So if we decide that we apply an aspect of the constitution and not apply another aspect, then are we a serious country? So me, whether it affects us or not is not the issue. I just want that every institution should apply the law.
Kofi Adams, many thanks for your time on News Desk this morning, and that's the national organizer of the ruling National Democratic Congress, Kofi Adams, sharing some thoughts on the issue. Well, he's taking that posture that indeed the law needs to be applied. As to whether there's the need for extension, well, he doesn't think there's any such need. I just wanted us to do a quick one with Bernard Mona, who is the national chairman of the People's National Congress, and we do know that the party has been in the spotlight over the past few months over quite a number of issues. Well, for starters, they had issues when they went for Congress. Some people decided to leave the party, others stayed, and there were issues of bribery and corruption. And even after that very process, we are told of issues of a lack of funds and all. But let's get a lot more from the national chairman of the party. I'm sure he has a lot more answers to these issues and whether or not they'll even be able to meet these requirements. That's if they haven't already met it. And Bernard Mona is joining me also on phone now with some thoughts on this. Mr. Mona, good morning. Many thanks for your time on News Desk, sir.
Yeah.
Bernard Mona.
Good morning.
Okay, senior. Right. Sure. So thank you for joining us. So first and foremost, I just want to find out, is your party aware of this directive by the Electoral Commission, and have you even met it? Are you confident that you're going to contest this year's elections?
We've contested elections since the inception of our fourth republic. We have never absented from any general election. And as a political party, we can pride ourselves as one of the surviving three political parties of the many that were formed since 1992. That we, and maybe the MPP and NDC, are the only parties that can say that we've been able to weather the political storm since 1992, and we continue to do so in the hope that even in this year's election, we'll be able to achieve significant representation in Parliament and also make the case that we are the party that should govern Ghana. Having said that, we have received from the Electoral Commission a reminder that Act 574 of the 1990 of the Political Parties Act is requiring us to have presence in 2/3 of the districts in this country, and importantly, it is also asking us to submit our audited accounts to the Electoral Commission in line with the Political Parties Act. We are working on meeting the expectations of the Electoral Commission. Having said this, I have had calls, and I'm sure that even on your platform, the chairman of the Electoral Commission has repeated some of the things I've said at IPAC, that I've said that we have had offices under trees just as we have schools under trees, and that the fact that it is a requirement for you before you are considered a political party does not necessarily mean that it continues to be a requirement when you are formed and you have been in existence for nearly 24 years. And so we have to look at it. I think that the law as it stands now is nebulous. I've made a call for the Electoral Commission to look at the need that offices that used to be rigid and situated at one place can no more continue to be said to be offices. As you are speaking to me, you cannot tell where I am and I'm communicating to you. It's possible I'm not even in Accra. So if technology and modern ways of doing things have facilitated our ways of doing things, businesses and offices are now carried on laptops, they are now carried on phones. We do conference calls, we do virtual offices. The Electoral Commission cannot continue to hold itself in such a manner as to suggest that offices must necessarily be rigid locations.
So you believe the EC is refusing
locations of these offices? Most of them have become places where we sell from ground. They have become places where we have hairdressers, tailors, and other businesses operating because it is difficult to run these offices. And we are not excited about just putting paints on walls and claiming that they are offices and continue these pretensions we must move on. And I have said that the Electoral Commission need to look at the law, and as P.N. Ward-Brew would put it, it is not the same to say that when you are being born, you register and you have the requirement. And when you are born, you have to always go and renew your birth.
Someone, I just want to find out from you, is it a case that you believe the EC is failing to adapt to recent changes in time? Obviously, you pointed out something very important, that we now live in a virtual world. Quite a number of things are done on a virtual platform. You don't necessarily need a physical structure to suggest that you are doing what you're supposed to. Is it that the EC is failing to recognize this fact and then adjust itself to this?
I cannot say that categorically. For instance, in the year 2010, in the company of Dan Kweku Bochwe, Alaji Hudu Yaya, Dr. Kwesi Jonah, and Christian Osupare, we were the team that worked on the Political Parties Act, and we made some suggestions and some amendments to the Political Parties Act as to reflect modern trends of doing things. The Electoral Commission, according to our sources, they have submitted the work to the AG's department for the AG to formulate the necessary bills to Parliament for consideration for the amendments to take place. Since 2005, nothing of that sort has been submitted to Parliament. And I'm sure that some of the amendments that we've been proposed by now are also becoming obsolete because of modern ways of doing things. So yes, the Electoral Commission may by itself know that, yes, modern ways of doing things have arisen and that the law has to change to reflect that. But the Electoral Commission cannot go to Parliament to lay before Parliament a bill. It must come from a ministry. And if the ministry responsible for this is not excited about doing it, we all have the kind of difficulties we have. But just imagine that we have participated in elections from 1992, continue to participate, shaping the political will of the people of Ghana. And you come and tell me that because maybe I do not have sufficient offices in districts of this country, because of that you are going to scrap me. I find it extremely difficult. Of course, I agree with the Electoral Commission that some of the parties really have become moribund. Some parties are merely existing in the books. And without any negation, I can just mention some of them. If you take UGM, United Ghana Movement, whose political parties founders have all moved to the MPP to the extent that they can even be suspended from the MPP. It tells you that the party is no more in existence. But on paper, it is a registered political party in Ghana. If you take a party like DFP, whose membership, Obeda Samuel Bidede and all, have moved to the NDC with the exception of Frances, who joined the MPP. They've moved back. It means that the party is comatose. Such parties, it's easy for the Electoral Commission to say that, look, you have not participated consistently in elections for this number of periods, and indeed your membership have also been consumed by other political parties, or you yourself have moved on to some parties, and therefore you can easily take them off. But parties that have shown resilience, parties that have contested elections, parties that had proof that we have the offices that we have, and then you turn around and say that you are going to ensure rigid enforcement of laws, I'm sure that we'll have some difficulties.
So you believe the focus should be primarily on parties that have been able to consistently contested in the country's elections? Because
you must show some level of activity.
Indeed.
NIP, National Independence Party.
Okay.
Do you remember that party?
I do remember that party.
We used to call it Akokodako because it was a chicken and its baby. Yeah. No so. Then you had the Heritage Party by General Eskin. Have you ever heard about these political parties any longer? Okay.
So essentially, I believe that point has been made. So, but as things stand now, the PNC will not be contesting the elections, will it? I mean, if you're unable to meet that criteria anyway, we have been told that by May 31...
In 2016, we have selected our presidential candidates, parliamentary candidates, and we are on course.
So you don't believe that the PNC is a party that doesn't even have a future? I mean,
we will submit to the Electoral Commission what we consider as offices, including the offices and the trees.
So if that's what the Electoral Commission wants, you're going to give them that?
We will submit to them the offices we have where they can be located.
Okay.
And I keep saying that I pride myself that, look, as a product of schools and the trees, I'm not deficient. I don't come short. in terms of making contributions.
So you'd rather set up offices under trees just so you can meet this criteria?
We do have some under trees.
You do have
some in buildings.
Right. Many thanks for your time on News Desk this morning. And Bernard Mona is the national chairman of the People's National Congress, and he's also been sharing some thoughts on that directive by the Electoral Commission. You're watching News Desk here on your Joy News channel on Multi TV. We are taking a break. When we come back, we'll bring you a lot more stories, including a decision by judicial service workers to withdraw their services effective today. We'll be back.